I'm here today to tell you a mystery that was revealed to me by Yeshua. Before I do, I'd like to give a brief testimony about how I came across this mystery in regards to communion. I was in Washington, D.C., and I was doing a thing called Sound the Shofar, which we had people from all over the world participating in. And for 2 days, I didn't get any sleep because I was busy working with all the people toward the furtherance of that end in Washington, D.C. When, right before I left to go to the airport, a Jewish rabbi came to me and said, "You're going to have a supremely important divine appointment as you travel on your way home." I was very excited about that, so I rushed to the airport, and I never sit in first class. I always sat in economy because I found that I had more divine appointments in economy than I did in first class. When I got there, however, I was late because I had trouble with traffic getting there. And when I got there, they had already upgraded my seat as a million-mile traveler to first class. And I told the lady, "Thank you very much, ma'am, but I'd rather keep my seat in economy." And she looked at me and very brusquely said, "Lady, the doors are shutting. Get on the plane." So I got on the plane, and when I got on the plane, I found that I was sitting in seat 1A. But to my disappointment, I had no seatmate. And I thought, darn, I knew it. My divine appointment is back in my old seat in the economy section. So I waited for the plane to take off, and then I got up and went back and looked, but they had already assigned my seat to someone who was waitlisted. So I didn't have any choice but to go back and sit in seat 1A. When I got to seat 1A, I sat down, and pretty soon this short, little red-headed, freckle-faced, cute little stewardess came, and she brought me a tray, and on it was wine and bread and honey and nuts. And I looked at her and I said, "Thank you, ma'am, but I didn't order that because I don't drink." And at that particular time, I hadn't had a drink of alcohol in over 20 years, and I was quite proud of that. When I told her, "Thank you very much, but this is not my tray," she looked at me and she goes like this, leans over and winks like that, and sets the tray down. And all I could think of was, well, she must have given the tray to the wrong person. Somebody else ordered this tray because obviously I didn't. And I turned around and looked, but everybody else in first class already had a tray. So I thought, well, what the heck? I just left the tray on my table, leaned my head against the fuselage because I was quite tired. And I started to drift off to sleep when all of a sudden there was a blast of breath that just hit my cheek. And I turned around quick and looked, and there was nobody there. I thought, well, that was really strange. So I put my head back down again. And the second time, this blast of breath hit my cheek, and I jumped up and I turned around, but nobody was there. And I thought, this is really strange. So I put my head back down on the fuselage, and all of a sudden, this huge wind struck me, and it was so strong, it actually blew my hair. And I opened my eyes and I looked, and there was Yeshua sitting on the seat beside me. I began to cry. I'm used to seeing him in the heavenly realms, but whenever he shows up in the earthly realm, I know something spectacular is about to happen. So I looked at him and I said, "Lord, what are you doing here?" And he said, "I came to serve you communion." Oh my goodness, I just burst into tears, and I thought, the Lord of the universe is here to serve me communion, and I was just overwhelmed. And I'm crying, and the people sitting across the row from me looked at me and said, "Lady, are you all right? Do we need to get you a doctor? Is everything okay?" "No, everything's okay." Because, of course, they couldn't see him, but I could. With that, he picked up the bread, broke the bread, and put it in my mouth. And when he put it in my mouth, it was sweet, sweet, sweet as honey. But when I went to swallow it, it burned all the way down. And I thought, oh my goodness, this is just so amazing. About that time, he picks up the wine. He says, "This is my blood, which was shed for you, for the remission of sins." And I looked at it with all stupidity. I said, "I'm sorry, but I don't drink." It shows you how habitual we can be in our religious mindsets. He just threw his head back and went into outrageous laughter. And he said, so what you're saying is, what's good enough for me is not good enough for you? Oh my gosh, then I realized I had offended my Lord by not drinking his blood, and I went into outrageous weeping and crying. Lord, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to say that I couldn't take your blood. Meanwhile, the people across the way are looking at me like I'm a very strange person, and I'm sure I look like one. With that, I picked up the wine, and I drank the wine. It went down like fire and honey, and all I can remember thinking is, this is my Savior's blood. This is his blood. This is not just wine. Then I gathered my wits about me and I said, well, Lord, what are the nuts and honey for? And he just threw his head back and went into gut-busting laughter. And he said, well, you are kind of nutty, honey. With that, I began to cry, and the people across the way said, lady, are you okay? Do we need to get you a doctor? They're trying to get the attention of the stewardess because I'm just crying like crazy. But about that time, the Lord released into me the understanding of the mystery of communion. He said, many people in the earth are sick, and many are still dying because they have not rightly discerned this principle. When I said, take and eat, this is my body, I didn't say, this is a picture of my body, this is a symbol of my body, this is my body. When I said, take and drink, this is my blood, I didn't say this wine is a symbol of my blood. I said, this is my blood. The reason why people are still sick and still dying is they don't understand the mystery.